I called, yeah, I didn't say what, because I was still looking for the agenda, but I can't bring it up on my phone without losing all of you and having to then sign back in
So Sarah, let's
and
say 9:07. 9:07 works.
yeah.
And then we.
So-
Okay, thank you.
Evan, next is the land steward report, and that's Peter Norris, who is away. He's traveling.
Is Peter on the call?
He's not.
Okay. So I think we'll dispense with the land steward report. Since Peter's been away for the most of the winter and I guess coming back either later this month or next month.
This month he's back.
Next week, and we'll keep him busy. So number 4 is existing business, Evan. And under A, I have open space property updates and a couple of other things. So if it's okay, I'll start on that.
Why don't you go ahead and do that then, Amanda? Thank you.
Okay. I just want to mention that yesterday we did have the Ames drone flight, and Andrea will go into it in more detail, I'm sure. And as part of that Rockfall Foundation, I need to have the board approval for anything $500 or over $500. So I'd like a vote to approve the authorization for me to pay $1,600 for the drone flight, which will be put on our webpage, and they've taken a number of pictures, and we'll go into that at a later date when we get it all back. And also I'd like to have in the same motion the authority to pay Jim Mildren for the 2 benches on the Ames Wildlife Open Space Wildlife Preservation Area for $500. Those will be installed next week. Andrea and I'll be coordinating that so we can get those installed. So I have
a question. You said 1,600 for the drone?
Yes, flight and
because 1,500 was mentioned in the budget for the grant. But this comes under us. In any case, it is not part of their payment.
So it's $100 discrepancy, I think.
Can I ask you for, when you say it comes under us, does the grant cover some of that?
No, it's all of our match. It's
Okay.
all our payment. So I don't think it matters, but I'm just pointing it out from a
bookkeeping point of view. Thank you.
A grant standpoint. I mean, it's not their payment.
I think we were pretty fluid when we got all
under the Hartford Audubon Society, the difference. But it's fine. I'm just, from a accounting standpoint, I'm just pointing it out because we were going to assume the difference anyway.
Do you want me to go back to them and ask for 15, or do we want to pay it at 16? What are the thoughts?
What were they given the $1,500 as a
nothing? This is they gave me the write up, and then the proposal, and then the bill at 16. It came in the mail last night. So okay. I can go back to them and say their quote was 1,500, and they could come back and say, but we did more work because they're doing the outline of the, which was, I don't know. I can certainly clarify it, but we can go 15, 16.
I'm fine with the 15. And it's not part of the request from the grant. It's our match.
Any other comments?
I was just curious. What was the cumulative cost for the cameras? That was below the 500 threshold?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So do you need a motion, Amanda?
Yes, I need a motion to approve those 2 bills.
I would move that we approve these two expenses for the Beaver project.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, so that passed. On the McCulloch open space, Evan and I are meeting with the Tom Metcalf, the engineer, and possibly Dick Gates and Jim Mildren next Wednesday. We're going to have them do a plan. We'd like to have them, with your approval, do a plan for the parking area off the Yellow Trail. We've experienced, as I mentioned in the past, some problems with the neighbors and the complexity of this. And there's not a sightline problem. It's more of a location of the parking area. We have restrictions on it because of the Nature Conservancy as to the size and everything. We have a general map that we submitted that's recorded on the land records, but we feel that a plan with an engineer's statement attached to it would be better, rather than let all of us decide how a parking area should be built. So we're going to discuss that. And we also are going to look at the spillway, which is Jimmy's Pond by Rook's Meadow. Jim Mildren is concerned about the overflow, and you may need to do a little work over there. And we thought, while Tom Metcalf was there, he could look at that. And then Evan met with Tom Matnick this morning concerning the ledge on Whippoorwill Road, which abuts the Tree in the Gap parking lot. And Evan, if you want to fill us in on that.
Yeah, we've been concerned about the sight line on Whippoorwill Road. There's a curve coming from the north as cars are coming from the north and down the hill and around the corner. The entrance of the Tree in the Gap parking lot is hidden to a large extent from people driving around that corner. And so we wanted to find out what it would take to take the ledge. There's a big piece of ledge that blocks the view, and that would require blasting. So it's and the quote I got this morning was 10,000 for the blasting, and then perhaps another 5 to 10 to remove the rock and to do some surveys of the neighbors' properties. Whenever they blast, they go to the neighbors and check out their foundations and make sure that the foundations are sound prior to the blasting, so that if any cracks appear as a result of the blasting, that would be clear. Sort of like doing a home inspection before you move in, but it's just doing a foundation inspection of the neighbor's foundations before you blast, so that somebody who has a pre-existing condition in their foundation can't come back and say, well, you caused the crack in my foundation from the blasting. So the total is quote or estimate was $15,000 to $20,000 to take back that ledge, probably 10 to 12 feet, so that anybody coming around the corner wouldn't. And people do drive certainly faster than the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit on that road, especially if they're talking on their phones and have several other people in the car. So I throw out that we're gonna talk to Tom Metcalf and see if he has any other ideas. Because we think that $15,000 to $20,000 is a lot of money.
We had,
And it was a pre-existing entrance for the McCulloch farm, and you know, a gate and the roadway and so forth. So it's the only difference is that we created the parking lot and have invited the public to use that.
Tom Metcalf had earlier suggested putting, as you come out of the Tree in the Gap parking lot, putting a sign up that says left turn only.
Right turn.
I mean, I'm sorry, right turn. No, thank you. Right turn only. Greg Futoma had said maybe put a sign up a little farther still on McCulloch, said hidden entrance. There was discussion about a mirror. That's a lot of legal work, negotiations and things, and it would be several $1,000s. I think, as Evan said, we'll, when we see Metcalf on Wednesday, we'll go over that with him, and then maybe ask our attorney for an opinion letter to put in the file. But as Tom had said, and as Evan had said also, it was an existing gate entranceway to the farm. So, I mean, it is what it is, and we can put as many precautions as possible, but we just need to protect the liability. So we'll update you on that as we go along. Yes, Andrea.
It seems that it's important to address this in a soon manner because summer is coming and spring break and other increased activities, Earth Day, etc. Can one start with a sign, the couple of signs, a hidden entrance, a right turn only, and then deliberate more on the mirror legal aspects and the ledge blasting or not? I don't know, several thousand compared to 20,000 is,
Well,
I don't know what that means. I don't know what several thousand.
oh, we're still exploring this. And the other thing is you need to realize that at some point, the McCulloch land ends and the town of Old Lyme Highway Department comes in. So we now would have to go to the selectmen and offer and present this, and selectmen would need to be approved, order the signs and do all that. We will certainly, I think Evan and I can talk to Tim and see about it, but it's not going to happen overnight. There's a lot of procedures that we need to follow because it's got to go to Board of Selectmen. So it would be 3 to 4 weeks out anyway. But Evan, do you want to talk to Tim about it?
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be something that the town of Old Lyme has to approve, and I think it has to go through the Board of Selectmen. And
I think so too. Yeah. And we can do a presentation to the Board of Selectmen, but I'm concerned if we do a presentation, I need to put the parking lot there. So we have to, you know, be careful what we.
I have just a quick question.
Sure.
I understand when you're talking about highway signs and the town right away, whatever, obviously there's procedures that one needs to follow, but if we were to put a right turn only sign within the open space property, can that just, what approvals would we need for that?
Good point.
I don't know. I think
I
we
don't-
meet with
I don't-
Metcalf on Wednesday. That's a good question. We'll ask him, but I think for us to speculate right now, I think it goes back to the civil
Yeah.
engineer. Tom is the engineer for the town. He's going to know between planning, zoning, and everything else what we can do. And so I would defer to him.
That would be my question. If Tom says there's no approvals, that would be, as Andrew said, a first step while the hiking season is open, and then pursue other things subsequent to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll put that down for Tom.
Okay. Yeah,
And
we'll
Evan,
certainly
meanwhile-
we'll bring it up but I don't know that we can, and then we'd have to go back to the Board of Finance to find the money to pay MACNIC to blast if that was a decision that needed to be made. You know, I think we were invited to do that when we needed to, if we overspent our budget, you know, just come back to the Board of Finance and they'll look at it. But right now, that an expenditure of $15,000 to $20,000 for that is seems to me we need to do more work on that to justify it.
Is there any chance that this would require a town meeting?
Isn't it? You're right, because any expenditure over a certain amount, I don't know what the limit is for the town selectmen. Let's do a little more research on this before, I don't want to get sidetracked from our agenda. We need more information and then come back to you all, probably at the May meeting. But if we can do a sign that says, you know, right turn only, is that right, guys? Right turn only? We will go ahead, we'll send out an email and see if we can get that put up as soon as possible. Is that agreeable to everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then we'll check on the other and we'll report back to you on how it goes. So we're working on Tree in the Gap, McCullough, Ames, where Andrea's gonna get you up to date on the wildlife observation. We're hoping to open that on Earth Day. Champlain North is Stephen. He's not at the meeting, but Evan, he did say that bench is not available. And so we may want to get Jim Mildren to do bench. Nothing really new on Champlain South or Bartholomew. I did get an email from, I think it was Ann Gallagher, asking about saying, are you all having the abuse on your trails? Let's see. Says, I know you guys prohibit trail modifications by trail bikers. I was wondering if you had posted anything near the sites, and they are having some problems with theirs on a couple of the Griswold Preserve. I don't know, Suzanne, if you want to address that. Suzanne, are you still with us? Don't.
I'm sorry. I'm having trouble working this machine.
Oh, okay.
Can you tell me the question again? I'm sorry.
That's all right. Anne had sent me an email about modifications on the trails by bike users. We noticed it when we, Andrea.
Wait, I apologize. I cannot get my volume to move.
We can hear you just fine. Can you
Yeah,
hear
but
us?
I can't hear the question. Ann sent you an email about modifications on what trail?
On the Griswold Preserve by bicycle people doing modifications on the trails.
They did the modification on Griswold because they thought it was going to, well, they decided, the stewards wanted to open up some trails, but then when they had a look at them, they thought they were too close to the boundaries. I've actually, unfortunately, been having some horrible trouble with sciatica, and I haven't been on any trail anywhere. So I am not totally sure what's going on. I know we've modified a lot of trails lately.
This was unauthorized use by bicycle riders.
Right. I kind of know where that is because I had seen it before. I don't know if it's continuing or not. I'm not sure if it's bicycle or ATVs, but
Amanda, can I just throw in a quick observation?
Yes.
When several of us were hiking Ames a few weeks ago, we noticed on one long downhill trail, looked to me about 5 or 6 locations on curves where soil was baked up, so bicycles going on a downhill could kind of take that corner a little bit on edge. And then we also noticed there was tape marking out, which seemed to be kind of unofficial trails through tape. So that's essentially what the issue was.
Well, that's on Ames. I think that the kids are using these trails a lot during COVID. And some of those bankings on Ames, I believe, were for bobsleds, because I kind of saw the trails for those.
For
Bob-
what? I'm sorry.
Bobsleds.
So they were sledding. They were taking curves and sledding
The bicycles or sleds?
sleds in the snow. I mean, it
Oh,
clearly
in the
wasn't bicycling, but
Oh.
those banks went up. I think they've used them for both, the bikes and.
Yeah, I did see tracks on those banks, Suzanne. Bike
Yeah.
We
tracks.
also had someone email us about some kids creating jumps on Ames. So, and Ann's question was, do we put any signs up or anything? So we've talked about that. I think we need to get a work crew out there, remove the survey tape, take where the banks, where they bank the curves and things like that, remove that and possibly put up a sign, no alteration of trails. Violators will be prosecuted or something like
You know,
that.
I hiked before this hit me, I hiked that property regularly, and I rarely saw these kids, and so you can put up signs, but I don't know. I mean, the ones I have seen tend to be like 13, 14-year-olds on bikes. And I think they're in there more like 4 or 5, whatever.
Well, it's also a liability issue for us on town
Right.
property.
We had the same thing at Griswold. They made those big, huge jumps, but we never did put in any signs. We talked about it.
Yeah.
It's a
Well,
liability.
Maybe if we just remove the stuff, maybe they'll get the hint. I don't know.
There's on Ames, there's a massive steep rock they're coming down. If you look, there's a strip of moss that's gone. I don't know how they survive it.
So where on Ames is that one? I didn't see that one. I was looking for it 'cause I got an email on that.
If you come down, now I'm trying to figure, I think it's on the main entrance on the right-hand side. I'm sorry, there's so many places those kids have been and dropped off the side. Or there's also one, I'm bad at this, along the creek bed that between those, I think
We'll
it's.
get our land steward out there. He'll be back. And
Okay.
I also got an email from somebody, showed, Evan, I think you got that from one of the coffees, showing a deer stand and a tree. We'll send out Peter Norris, our land steward, and then have him come back and give us a report and schedule a work party to remove all these. So, but I think it, as Ann said in her email, it needs to be addressed. We can't just ignore it because it will get worse, I think.
Yeah, well, I think it's a problem that's going on all over the state of Connecticut. I see reference to it through the CLCC and through and when I was up in Lyme yesterday, and not only are they getting a lot of bicycles and bikers, but the bicycle riders, the mountain bike riders are making trails, but then it looked like perhaps some of those trails were being used by motorcycles. There were unless they're big fat tire bikes. So
Could be electric bikes. Those are the new thing.
yeah.
I don't know.
It probably needs to be an education kind of thing, getting into the schools and letting people know that this is not something we approve of. I don't know that just putting up a sign is going to change anybody.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't think so either. But it does in terms of liability from an insurance point. That's the first start. But it might be something that the Land Trust and the Open Space Commission could work on an education program together at some point. That'd be kind of nice because we're all experiencing this. So Next on the agenda for me was the solar farm chorus.
Amanda?
I'm
You-
sorry.
You skipped over Eklund?
Oh, okay. Can I just do the solar? Do you mind
Sure.
if I, solar farms, that's quick, and then Eklund's gonna be, I'm sorry, I apologize. Solar farm, we got a letter sent to, open space email by a person, redressing us for our failure to, protect and preserve open space by allowing the solar farm. And we had Greg write a letter, include our correspondence to her saying that we have no local control over it. We did a walk. We had lots of questions. We supported Smart Solar and funded part of the engineering cost. We did everything that we could. And we pointed out the irregularities in their report that nobody in town knew about it, where they said everybody in town embraced it. All that. I think we forward all of this to you all. And so we have not heard anything back. And I don't know, the email was addressed to Tim and to the Conservation Commission. I don't know if they responded at all, but we did follow up on that.
I thought your letter was very good. The
That
letter
was
that
Greg.
you wrote to her. I might say that my impression is that the Siting Council approves almost everything.
Oh,
They
carte
don't
blanche.
do adequate reviews of things.
Well,
They seem to be a pretty much rubber stamp.
I think at that
Operation.
walk, and Ann Gallagher was there with her husband. They talks out of both sides of their mouth. They talk about how they want to protect and preserve core forests and everything, and then they're saying we need solar. So how can, if you're cutting down 17 acres of core forest, I said, you can't have it both ways. You want, 30% of the state preserved in open space and core forest and things like that. But meanwhile, you're chopping them down at a faster rate by approving all of this, rubber stamping the Siting Council. So,
Well, that's,
and no local authority, no local input. I'm sorry, go ahead.
The Siting Council also doesn't take into account where the electricity is needed. So they're they're approving these remote solar farms that are requiring more infrastructure to take the electricity from the solar farm to where it's used, instead of putting it in the areas where the use is the heaviest, which would be in industrial sites and commercial sites where these large buildings like Best Buy and Costco and all of these distribution centers with enormous amounts of acreage of rooftop, which should be used for the solar farms, which would not require so much infrastructure like rights, power line rights of way and things like that. It makes no sense to me, other than the fact that nobody wants to retrofit these buildings to accommodate solar power.
Garrett,
if I can interject
Sure.
just briefly, it resulted that this person that wrote the letter was my neighbor, which I didn't know then. So on Saturday, I talked with her husband, and I think that she, the person that wrote the letter, she knows a lot about engineering and carbon footprint and things like that. So she had calculated that essentially from that number of acres that were affected, all the trees that were cut, there is the carbon balance between what is preserved in the forest and the amount of electricity that is going to be produced by this solar farm is really very controversial. And the rule of thumb is that trees should be preserved first. There are plenty of sites probably, as Ivan was just mentioning, that can be used. And the far away that the solar farm is from the need of electricity, always there is some loss of energy during that distance in between.
Yeah.
So so that was the main concern, and particularly in this stage where there is so much euphoria about the green initiatives. It has to be a balance on how these initiatives are being taken on, and so I think that my impression is that we have to be watching for new proposals and see if we can intervene and have an opinion.
Well, Claudia, we worked with Deborah Mosier Dunn, and she Saved the Hills, and they started a group called Smart Solar, because she works with other people we know for applications in East Lyme and Waterford and everything like that. They were granted intervener status. They hired an engineer, and the board authorized monies to pay part of the bill for that. So we supported that, and that's what our letter tried to say. We support it, we try to stop it, but we don't really have a voice. There are no local controls, and her best way is to contact her representatives and to get more people going against the siting council and DEEP for allowing these. So, and I think that's what we just tried to do, is say, I'm sorry you're disappointed in us, but we had no authority, and we did everything we could. So that's what we wanted to go on record with. So the more support we have against these things, then the better. So maybe what we need to do in the future, if we see something like that come out, if we could put out a notice and get more support, maybe that would be a good.
Yes, I agree. Anyway, Amanda, what is this commission in East Lyme, you said?
It was, well, there's Save the Hills, the Oswegatchie Hills, and the woman that's involved in that, Deborah Mosier Dunn, formed a group called Smart Solar. And saying, instead of cutting down trees, just like Evan said, let's find other places and review, because there was no public hearing allowed. They had an engineering report that said the retention ponds were not the best design and things. And so I think to support these groups, because they had interviewed to raise the awareness of the public so that we can participate in these projects. Now we have no option. We can't participate. They denied the public. They denied a public hearing. They went up to New Britain to the siting council. They weren't allowed to speak. So I mean, it's basically a done deal by the time it.
Right. Do you have the contact information of that group that I might get some more information? Or
after the meeting or over the weekend, I'll send it to you. A lot on my plate today, but I will send it to you over the weekend.
Fantastic. So it's not like I just want to keep informed with that commission and
that's good,
and report here if there is anything new. Thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to make a quick comment too, that the state needs to kind of come up with some type of reconciliation between its various initiatives. Obviously, green energy is going to be crucial going forward, particularly when Millstone becomes decommissioned. But on the other hand, DEEP is promoting conservation of land. And the third part of this tripod, so to speak, is the state has also preserved farmland, and a lot of farmland is being lost for solar farms as well. Valuable farmland that can help our economy and our ecology too. So the state needs to kind of reconcile those three initiatives to find a path forward.
Okay.
Well,
very good.
It makes sense. It makes sense that in an economy where everybody knows the price of everything but the value of nothing, everybody goes for cheap, and farmland and forest land are cheap and these solar farms are renting land basically at agricultural prices, which is almost nothing.
Right.
Any other comments on the solar farm? Then I'm going to go back up. Thank you for pointing it out, Greg, to number 1, designated Eklund Pond Wildlife Refuge. Let me just give you a little background on that. First of all, this is a project that we're going to look forward to if we decide to do this in the fall after we finish the Rock Fall and the Ames Wildlife Observation Area and the Artist Trail, and take a little break for the summer. But Eklund Pond, to give you a little history, there's 2 ponds down there. There's Eklund Pond and Shippey Pond. We received the pond and a piece of land on Ferry Road as part of the Eklund subdivision. And at the time, Diana Johnson was the chair, and she met with the owner, and it was thought to be kept a wildlife, an open area for migratory birds, small critters, things like that. So we never really did anything about it. And then when Audubon bought the piece next door and proposed walking trails on it, it caused us to really do some deep thinking about what the purpose was of this pond. Audubon has since moved on, will be operating on the Bee and Thistle. Their piece of property is on the market now, I think for $250, $275. We have neighbors in the Eklund subdivision that abut our property who, and their boundary line with ours is in a inland, 100-foot inland wetland review area. Evan on wetlands can address this better. They have come to their, to the wetlands about doing some work in there. So it an opportunity. And then Fred Behringer came up and said, you know, Amanda, I have a couple of things going on, chestnut trees, and I want to do a kind of a study thing on invasives. And it kind of all fell into place. And also Andrea with the Environmental Club that, you know, has been helping us do, take out invasives. And so we thought maybe it's a chance to see in the fall what we could do there if we wanted to remove the invasives or study it on our piece of land. We need to mark our boundaries anyway, and we may need to get a survey so we can mark our boundaries. Work with the neighbors about planting native plants, maybe getting, Evan and I had gone to the seminar on rights of way, like Eversource rights of way, and how they're underneath the rights of way, the poles where they can't have trees, they'd have what they call bunny corridors, thickets to, you know, attract migratory birds, small animals, things like that. And the person that spoke is, Evan knows the name, is a professor at Connecticut College. So it seems like an opportunity to pull a lot of things together. I know Anne lives on Sandpiper and knows the neighbors. I see Susan Bates is here. I think she, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you bought one of the lots and we're building a house there. So it just seems like this is an opportunity that we should, you know, take advantage of, all work together to put forth this wildlife refuge plan. So it's open to the floor. Thoughts or comments?
Well, just as a comment, the Wetlands Commission was brought in. There was an application by one of the neighbors of the pond who had done some clearing and said that he wasn't aware of any restriction of cutting restriction within the zone. And I was under the impression that all of that area around the ponds, both Shippey and Eklund Pond, were restricted from no cutting. And then it turned out that only some of the lots were restricted. According to Rachel Gaudio, who's an attorney who is the chairman of the Wetlands Commission, said that she had read the minutes of the approval of the Eklund subdivision, and it did not apply. The restriction didn't apply to some of the lots. So,
But the survey shows that it does.
I don't know. I haven't been back to look at it, but anyway, a vote was taken, and Gary Gregory and I voted against the motion, but it passed. We were outvoted, and so, but we did I think we made some headway in convincing the landowners, especially the two lots that we'd looked at, that in the process of clearing the invasives that they wanted to replant, they should, because it's a steep slope, they should replant it and not allow invasives to take over. That we would be willing to help them with information on native plants and shrubs and so forth. But basically, the neighbors just wanted to tidy up, which is exactly what we don't want for habitat, and that's what Diana was so afraid that once the subdivision was approved, that the neighbors would just clear cut down to the pond and remove all the habitat. And to a certain extent, that's what's happened.
May I?
Evan, can I,
Can I
go
speak?
ahead.
Tell me, it's Susan Bates. It's 3 Sandpiper.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Amanda. I'd like to have clarification from you, Evan, on exactly, there have been, to the best of my knowledge, since the subdivision, been 2 houses built, number 5 and number 7. Number 7 was who went in front of inland wetlands a couple of weeks ago.
Right, Mr.
and-
Marchant.
Right, and I'd like a clarification from you on which neighbors are trying to quote unquote beautify their property with not understanding the importance of mitigation and appropriate habitat and plantings in inland wetlands. Can you just tell me who that is that are doing that?
Well, the two, Amanda and I met with your neighbor, I guess it's number 5.
Dr. Novak.
Yes, about a year ago, and suggested that he, before he did any more clearing, which he had done some cutting within the 100-foot setback, the review zone, and we were under the assumption that restriction, which we thought had been put in place when the subdivision was approved.
Right, but it's not. Do you agree,
Well,
Evan, it was not recorded at the time of the subdivision?
Well,
If you all agreed to that, it's a sidebar on the survey of the maps that the realtors are selling, which if this is an issue, that needs to be clarified. But you've got 2 other lots at the end of Sandpiper that are being heavily marketed by realtors.
Yep.
And they should, if this is an issue that you're trying to retroactively go back to, then this should be clarified legally, because
Exactly. Susan,
we
that's a
will.
legal issue that needs to be clarified. So I don't think we can address it in this meeting.
No, I agree, Amanda, but just so you know, I served as a inland wetlands commissioner for a number of years in Wilton, Connecticut, under
Yeah.
Pat Sesto, and did all the Connecticut training. And so I'm pretty aware of trying to make sure that when you buy something, you're aware of what the restrictive or the review area is, as we all know, is a little bit different from this isn't the point in time to get into it, but I think that what the Open Space Commission should understand is that people in that area, whether it be Ferry Road or whether it be the subdivision of Sandpiper, care very much about that property. And it was because they cared so much about that property that when the Audubon bought it, which was, no one had any problem with the organization that purchased the land, we all had a problem with a 4,000 square foot property and the public use of that property and what was going to become of it. And fortunately, it had a happy ending for everyone. But my husband and I did not buy this land to destroy it. We bought it to preserve it and to leave it in you hope you can leave it things in better shape than when you take them, and to leave it, pristine, or not pristine, but appropriate for the town and for people of many generations. So I think that just so you know, our intention is not to do anything but to understand the beauty and to enhance it in an appropriate way with specimens that are conducive to the health and the of the wild. Unfortunately, the land with all the invasive species has been compromised severely, and it is what it is, because the Eklunds are on the west coast, and it was his mother's property, I understand, and it was just sold, and he's peeling off these pieces as time has allowed. Because of the current.
I think, Susan, thank you. I appreciate that perspective, and I think it just it underscores Amanda's offer to work with all the neighbors, because that pond area is a migratory hotspot for birds, both in the spring and the fall, and which is why the former chairman of the Open Space Commission strongly urged the Planning Commission, when in approving the subdivision, to put that restriction in. Now, why it didn't pertain to all of the lots, I don't know. But if in this in buying the lots, if it seems to me that it's up to the buyer's attorney, and and Amanda knows about this because she's a title searcher. But if there's some restriction, then you should be made aware of it before you buy the property.
Correct, Evan, but it isn't, because we specifically asked for it. The only thing that is showing up on a title search, which Eklund his attorneys could not rectify, and then we decided to just not make an issue of it, is there is recordings on a tennis court, just so you know. It goes way, way back in the land, and the markers for that are very, very vague. But I think the open space, I saw this the years that I sat in wetlands. You know, it's ask forgiveness, not ask permission.
Right.
You've got those 2 lots at the end, which are being marketed. All you need to do is put in the addresses and see the pictures, and it's the pond that you see. And those are going to have to be very restricted building. The envelopes are tight. But the ones up front are in a review area. These other ones down below that are for sale and are being looked at, in the one on 315 Ferry Road, which is up on the slope and has ledge, so that'll be an interesting assignment, how you'll
Yep.
get a house in there, but that is under contract. So
Yep.
that area, I mean, my husband and my dedication is to try, now that the Audubon has successfully moved their mission to a more appropriate place, to try to somehow preserve that, in my humble opinion, unbuildable lot, and somehow make it protection to the 2 ponds. Whether or not that can happen, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
But-
Well, thank you.
And Amanda?
Yeah, I just want to, I have a couple of hands up. So I just want to note that, Fred, you're here attending this meeting. And Fred had talked about doing a project about invasives. And maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that, because this is where I think you and I had talked, Fred, about maybe doing your work.
Okay, thank you. So this has come about because I started a master naturalist course sponsored by Goodwin and DEEP and the Connecticut Forest and Park Association. And as part of that, they have us doing a little research project. And so I'm interested in invasives. And the thought was that, you know, I could characterize the invasives somewhere, document them. And instead of just having a report that, you know, ends up in a computer somewhere, have that information possibly be of use. So that's why I contacted Amanda and said if I, you know, would the Open Space Commission be interested in a survey somewhere along their one of their properties, and would that be of use to you?
And that's where it came to mind, Eklund. And then we have with us today Ann Wells, who lives on Sandpiper and is involved in, and why don't you tell everybody what you're involved in? You can do it better than I can. And I thought it might be a good place to plug Ann in too. So Ann, if you could give a little background for us.
Hi. Well, so I am not directly involved with, you know, any ongoing Old Lyme-based initiatives other than participating as an observer in open space. And but I do live across the street from the properties that border Eklund Pond, and you know, I have a lot of experience with conservation easements and preservation projects in general. At the moment, I'm working for the Garden Conservancy, which is a national organization that works with public gardens and preserves important historic landscapes. And so I'm sort of, and I have a background in environmental planning, so it's something that's near and dear to my heart. Also, you know, I feel very personally invested, having grown up on Sandpiper Point Road from 1970 on. And, you know, I would just love to see, you know, something like what Amanda is describing, a wildlife refuge for, you know, for the incredible and valuable wildlife and bird life that I see living there. And if, you know, I'm a big believer in education and in sort of, you know, bringing people into the process. So if, for instance, there's going to be a naturalist study or an invasive study on the property, if there's a way to involve the adjoining landowners to, you know, help document, or at least sending them updates on these are the things we're finding, this is how they affect the environment, you know, just sort of to keep the people who are there and who love the land, you know, as Susan was saying, that's why these people chose to live there. They think it's beautiful and they wanted to stay that way. You know, I personally would love to see all the remaining lots in the subdivision protected. You know, I think it's a very special place.
Thank you. And I
And may I ask you to identify your address, please? It's Susan Bates.
Hi, I'm across the street, number 10 Sandpiper.
Okay, and can I just address, and you can tell me if I should not be talking, Amanda, or Evan, but my understanding when I heard the lot was sold at 314 Ferry Road, and it was the Connecticut Audubon and Fairfield were holding the title, I thought, how wonderful, they're going to put a bird sanctuary there, because it was such a challenging lot in terms of being able to build, and it was not big enough to do much. And then, you know, we all got this letter, which we thought was fundraising, that at the very end said that the neighbors were delighted and it would be a 40,000 foot building with all sorts of things going on. It is a natural spot because it's a challenging lot. It's not large. It's very limited building wise, and it would be wonderful if that could be preserved. And, you know, let's hope that because real estate has escalated so much economically and the Audubon wants to recoup whatever money they put into it, which is of probably no value to anyone other than what their plans were. If we, you know, if people could somehow preserve that and then use it for this whole, as a buffer of this preserve on the ponds. That's the wish. How we can make any of that happen is, you know, wishes are not always plausible. So I think that is the intention of the neighbors, and to make it, you know, time, have the appropriate specimens and environment for the wildlife. And just so you know, I have been consulting with people that are versed in this, landscape architects who will, you know, guide and look for guidance from anyone on, you know, the best way to do this. I personally would be happy to be educated otherwise. Don't think that the environment now is it's very best to attract what kinds of birds and pond species would be the very best for it. But, you know, to be determined, and I'm open to any education.
Well, I think thank you, Susan. I think that's why Evan and I decided to put this on the agenda to explore this. And I will say, and several of us have been involved in conversations for grants and things, and I have not found at this point, and Andrea, please correct me, any grant that gives money for a refuge preserve that does not allow passive recreation. And for a wildlife refuge, there would be no passive recreation. Now, so we talked to the forestry, we've talked to DEEP on their grant rounds and everything. That said, Andrea is great at researching grants, and we had talked about some grants that were coming up in the fall. And I don't know, Andrea, if this would be something that would possibly qualify for something like this? You're shaking your head, yes.
Unmute. Yes, I believe there are grants out there that could help facilitate purchasing the property. Some of the one I'm thinking of, their deadline, their round would begin again in January.
Mhm.
Another, I'd have to investigate as to what their timeline is. What is our timeline in terms of making a proposal for this land?
Well,
If that's what it's under.
Well, I think first we need to decide if we want to do this. It's a major undertaking, and as I said, we've got two that we're finishing up now, and I think we need to take a little respite. But that doesn't mean that outside our, monthly meetings, we can't meet and discuss this and maybe have a presentation for the fall of what we want to do. And I think, with Ann here, with Susan, with Fred, and a lot of us, I think just meeting and discussing it and trying to get a handle. I think we need to, as I've talked to Evan, I'm a big one for marking the boundaries. I think the first thing that open space needs to do is go mark our boundaries on there. And Bill Dunbar and Julie are leaving their lot in an open space assessment. So I don't think there'll be any development on that. And they've given us permission to access it, to go down and mark it. And if we need to hire a surveyor to delineate that, that would be the first step. And then while we're down there, if we could work with Fred or people that say, and tag the invasives, and then come up with a plan for if we want to create a wildlife area that attracts migratory birds and small animals, what plants do we need to get in? I think we need a commitment from the neighbors, a very basic commitment. They're going to have to run their hoses down there and water these plants. And then I think we all need to address the lot that Audubon owns, because it is right at the connecting point between all of these lots in the pond. So maybe we need to look at some deep pockets or.
So I guess my question is, if we're looking at that Audubon property, is there a time frame for that? Are you talking about potentially?
So if I don't know, because
Okay. Well, there's money out there. There is money out there, and I know of some upcoming grants, and I know of potential grants even now. When some of the grants, it would be a kind of fund share program, so put out there. So after a certain number of contributions in terms of the number of people, not necessarily the number of dollars, money is matched. And then once the money is met, boom, you have to be ready to start once it's approved. So some of them can move faster, some can move slower. So but yes, there's money out there, no word.
Does somebody want to talk to Audubon?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that. I would kind of defer to Evan with his real estate background, but at what point would you express that we might be interested pending grant monies?
Well, I think I'm happy to talk to the folks at Audubon and find out what they're, if they're willing to make some sort of concession. Obviously, it's not going to be as a nonprofit organization. They can't take advantage of some of the tax benefits of selling to the town. It wouldn't be like a private individual selling and taking the tax benefit of a bargain sale, for instance, and selling it for less than its value, its appraised value. I'm sorry, what?
I said, I'm not sure there are any more tax benefits anyway, but that's a moot point. We don't need to discuss it.
But the fact is, I'm happy talking to, I know several board members, Audubon board members, RTP board members who I can have a private conversation and find out if they'd be willing to even, I think they're trying to get it sold, that lot sold, so that they can use the money to renovate the Bee and Thistle Inn to
Right.
create the center that they have in mind. But
And
I did talk to a realtor and they were like at 275, 276, hoping to recoup. But I think a conversation with Audubon would be good. And Ann, I see your hand is up.
yeah, and then I would like to say something.
And a thought, if we're concerned about the, the volatility of the market right now, maybe Evan, I don't know, just throwing it out there, whether a right of first refusal could be something just to sort of keep things on pause for a little bit while we get.
we could either a right of first refusal or some sort of, or we could pay for some sort of option.
I can, may I give you a little background? When we bought the lot, we did not know what the cost of the building would be, but we didn't want to own land. I'm currently right now in Vermont, on land. We weren't looking for a tract of land. We were looking for the location, which is what we've all spoke about. We asked Mr. Eklund to give us the right of first refusal on the lot, and he had no interest in any of that. And our intention was to, depending on, if we could afford it, the end results of constructing the house was to then create it, add it to the conservation down by the pond. Then the Audubon bought it, and the Audubon has approached us. First of all, they approached us when we put our project on hold for almost 2 years because we said we didn't want to live next to a public building and we'd wait and see how it all played out. And then during that period, they approached us trying to buy our land. Then they, when they moved to the Bee and Thistle, they approached us about buying the land. And I asked what the cost of the land would be, knowing that they paid $199. And they said, well, we've got costs in it. And I said, well, that's fine. You need to tell me what you're selling it for. Well, we need to recoup our money. And I said, well, you paid $199, and that's what, if you're looking for that, that's one thing. Well, the first number they gave me was $250. Then I said, well, let me see what it is, but we've got plans and you need to know what's going to be built next to you. And I said, well, then show me the plans. And they said, well, if you want to see the plans, it's $260. So I said, well, okay. I'm thinking you're moving in the wrong direction. So then they come back and they said, we've got a buyer. Do you want it at $260? And I said, no, thank you. We'd like to go through a broker. We're not going to do a private transaction. So they said, well, we're going to put it on MLS and it'll be $275. So that was the last discussion. It has yet, Evan, I believe, to be listed on MLS. So
yeah,
I'm just sharing with you the conversations that have taken place. And in this market, if they're looking to sell a piece of land to someone with, lumber costs, 200% increase, and they don't understand building or don't understand preservation and the wetlands and all of that and the terrain, so be it. But I don't think you're going to get a neighborhood group, maybe Andrea, or Ann, but we were very blessed to be able to get the neighbors to, come together in short order to get the Audubon to understand that wasn't going to be an easy road for them to change a R40 into a special permit commercial building. So I think that, Evan, if you can understand their reasonableness of selling the land for the good of the earth, that's a very good place to start.
Well, I'll certainly give it a try and see what they say. But I suspect that they've got certainly some costs that are going to accrue from the paying architects and eventually the building to renovate the Bee and Thistle, and I know there's some deep pockets that in Connecticut Audubon. Obviously, if they bought the Bee and Thistle and then without selling the lot, but we'll just have to see what their interest is and see if there's some way of acquiring the Audubon lot at a minimal cost.
So I think you know that, or what I hope you're hearing, that, and Ann, I'm very happy to meet you and to know that there is pure, true interest from the neighbors in preservation. And so I think that people will come together. Obviously, the neighbor across the street has the capacity, Herb Chambers, to be very generous, but it is his personal choice to decide whether he wants to participate in this. And you know, we all can try, and I think people want to come together and do the right thing here. And I think that's really the purpose in me feeling like I'm intruding on your meeting, but is to send that to open space, that that's what people want, because that's the beauty of it. And that's the reason Steve and I want to return to Old Lyme full time, is because that's where we want to be at the end of the year.
Susan, let me interrupt just for a second because we have a time issue.
Okay, I'm done.
No, and we appreciate your input and the neighbors. And like we said, we want to be a good neighbor too. It's part of our open space. As to the purchase, I just want to remind the board members that we have a procedure for purchasing, which is a separate matter. Our goal here, our objective was basically to look at making it a wildlife refuge, and I just don't want to put the cart before the horse. We need to address the whole project at, separate times and then come forward. And so I think all of us here have something to contribute to making this a wildlife refuge, if that's what we want. But I don't want to get too far out and projecting on other parts of it without doing more research. So let's continue on our own working towards this. And we'll certainly be in touch. Evan and I will be coordinating this, finishing up our other matters. And feel free to email any of us if you have any thoughts. Andrea, if you want to look into some grants, that would be very good. Fred, if you want to do a walk with us so you can look at the invasives, and we will be down there at some point. We'll be calling for a walk on the property to look at our boundaries. So let's all follow up on this. Any additional comments before we go on to the next item?
I just want to thank you all for your patience in listening to me, and I want to thank you as a resident of Old Lyme, that for the work you do. I understand that this is a volunteer position and how important it is. So thank you for putting up with me this morning.
Oh, we enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you for joining our meeting.
Amanda,
Yes.
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I'm going to check out as well.
Okay.
It was good to hear more about the Eklund project.
Okay. Can you contact us and let us know if you're interested in working on that as your project?
Yeah, I think we agreed to meet maybe in a week or two.
Okay, great. Send Evan and me an email. We'll set up a meeting and we'll post it to everybody else so you can. But thank you for attending the meeting.
And one more thing, the other reason why I attended was my concern about solar farms. And I was glad to hear about the concerns expressed this morning. And
good.
I just think anybody who's interested in the environment and conservation should be looking at this, at solar farms with a much more critical eye, and they're not the panacea that we may think they are. So I was glad to hear the concerns and some of the contacts that you provided. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, well, thank you. We'll try, if we hear any more information down the road on things, we'll try and put it out to the public so we can get more support.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much,
Okay.
Fred.
Okay,
Nice to see you, Fred.
bye. Good seeing you all.
Okay. Andrea, long last you're up. Grants and community outreach.
So I have a fair amount to talk about. If
Okay.
people need to stretch or use the bathroom, I would say go for it. I had to do this myself, but okay, so I have two specific grants to talk about and some outreach work party events that have taken place and ones to discuss coming up.
Okay.
Starting off, we received a $2,500 grant from the Rockwall Foundation at the end of March. We had to postpone the photo op of the huge check because our grantor contracted COVID, but we received the check anyway. From that check, we are paying out, we paid $463 for the 2 of the 3 proposed wildlife cameras. That comes the selection, and I could go through the process, but I may have written that up for some of you. The selection was to have a camera that has a internet Wi-Fi capabilities that downloads pictures automatically to a phone or computer, so that one does not have to go out to the field to retrieve the SD memory cards. And I have the cameras, and I'm hoping that perhaps with Evan and anyone else's help this coming week, we could attach them to some trees at the observation points on the Ames property. Alex Roth, who is a high school junior, contacted me about being an editor, video editor for that filmage. He's very receptive and excited about the prospects. And so once the cameras are installed, he and I can meet more formally to do some of the logistical aspects. I need to go through the town for the payment of the monthly Wi-Fi service, which can be stopped and started for any amount of time. It's paid on a 1-month basis. As Amanda said, the benches from Jim Mildren are completed, and this coming week we will also be putting those up. And the challenge is getting the benches in. And I was just there yesterday on both sides of the trail, and if we could access the road beyond the Tinarillos, which is maybe 150 feet, I'm not sure the distance, then it's about a 10 to 15 minute walk. One path is flatter than the others, but if someone has a wagon or a golf cart, that could facilitate carrying the benches in. It would just be a little cumbersome, but it could be done. I don't know what they look like, Amanda, but
they're 4 feet long, and they have 2 legs that are like tree stumps, each one. And
So-
Jim's checking on the access to the road.
Do you have a sense of the weight, Amanda?
Not that heavy. I'll have Jim weigh them for you.
Yeah, I mean, 2 people can pick them up easily now.
I think so. And the stump might be a little more awkward, and so maybe a wagon or something. And I mean, it depends on, and you know, I'm seeing Jim, Evan and I are seeing Jim on Wednesday, so we'll take some pictures and stuff, and maybe if we
Until
can,
Wednesday, okay, because
well,
in terms of availability, if you want kids to help out, this week is vacation week. So this
Okay,
would be
yes,
otherwise there are games in the morning and afternoon, but this week would present a huge window and opportunity to get them in place before the 22nd.
okay. Is morning better than afternoon, or does it make any difference?
It kind of depends on the day, but
I'm waiting to hear from Jim on the access to the road. Once he has that, then I'll go over this weekend and do that and get back to you. But I gotta wait for him to tell me he's called the property owner. So ball's in his court right now. But I'll call him after the meeting and remind him, see how it's going. And then I'll get back to you.
okay.
Okay.
But do any of us amongst us have a wagon or a little golf cart or tractor, maybe even a mower?
Let me check with Wayne Vasiloff. I mean, not Wayne Vasiloff. Wayne, you know.
Abrahamson.
Thank you, Abrahamson. Because he has a bunch of those little golf carts. So maybe see what he thinks. So I'll check with Wayne and I'll check with Jim. Jim might have something too. I don't know. So I'll follow up on that and get back to you this weekend.
Okay. April 22nd, I believe, is the date for Earth Day. And it's, I think, a Thursday.
I have it down as April 21st. I don't know which day's right, but I have the 21st.
All right, well, either Wednesday or Thursday of that week is Earth Day.
I have on Thursday, the 22nd.
The 22nd? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So, per the grant for Rockfall, we need to do some level of publicity and potential education. And we need, over the course of the grant, at least 6 photos and PR announcements. And we already have one of the erecting of the fence, one of the drones. Let me get to my notes, sorry.
Signs
I
are
think
still
we had the fence clearing, the drone, we'll have the bench, we'll have something on Earth Day, even if we'll have the camera, and then we'll have footage of the video, which we could have 2 or 3 results from. But Greg, I could speak with you separately as to what anything needs to be said with regards to the guidelines for mentioning Rockfall, for Tim further on to announce, or if we're writing something up. And Alex could also help with putting something on our website, unless there's somebody else who does that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he'd have to go through Michelle Noren, but that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. And then she had proposed, the grantor had proposed several dates, but as well as suggesting that closer to the end of the project, which I think is the route to go, because there are a number of moving parts and undefined dates to give closure to some of these activities. Does anyone have questions about the Rockfall? Oh, there's another concern about it. Go ahead, Gary.
I had a quick question, Andrea. How did the drone flight go? Did you guys get to see the footage, or were they able to cover the whole area that we want it covered?
Yes, I saw it, And they also were able to pan down, and they'll give us some free pictures, free, standalone pictures, and then the drone. To the opposite side, heading south towards 95 on Whippoorwill, because that waters up. And then they showed me pictures of the whole area. So I think it's going to come out, and they address the potential boundary issue that we did. Andrea, I just want to follow up, because we're going to do, Tim hopefully is going to do a selectman's letter saying, Earth Day, we're opening up this thanks to Rockfall and Hartwell. Doesn't mean we're going to have a big ribbon cutting ceremony. We're not going to be out there. So if everything's not in place, it's not a big deal. But it's something we're working. It's more of an announcement on an appropriate date. So all the particulars don't need to be in place. And you've done a great job of doing this. And I think we need to have a punch list so we can finish it up. But it's not like, and it's here and there's a group of people. It's just like an announcement so that they know. So,
all right, well, that's good. That's good to clarify for me.
Thank you. So go ahead.
Can I ask one quick question, Andrew, while you're on here too? Are there any guidelines from Hartford Audubon that we need to consider?
I'll talk about that in just a minute.
Okay.
But just to wrap up the Rockfall grant, it is currently titled the Beaver Education Observation. And because for two reasons, we're considering calling it more of a wildlife observation project, because we received a grant from the Hartford Audubon Society, and the film will capture more than just the beavers. That will be the focus of the education, but it's a larger scope of what is going to be considered. So still have a call out to Liz about if there's any question about making that change with regards to the grant. But from our standpoint as a board, do people have a feeling for one title or another, or would be comfortable with calling it a wildlife observation?
Evan, you're muted.
I think that's, Andrea, that's fine. Wildlife observation, because you're observing whatever comes into the camera, or can be observed from the bench, which I think it will be more, as you say, more than beavers.
My inclination would be to call it beaver and wildlife. I'm a little bit reluctant to lose the word beaver, because that's why we started this whole project, to kind of protect them because of all the issues involving them.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
And would you call it area?
I was going to suggest that beaver and wildlife seems like a
good. Thank you, Peter.
Good way of resolving that.
So would you call it Beaver and Wildlife Observation Area?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure I get this title right, because
that's important. Yes.
Well, I don't want people saying that's not what I said, Amanda. So I think that's great. I love the whole idea, and I think it's so appropriate for Earth Day. I think it's so it's another one of those things that started with flooding on a trail and developed into a whole wildlife observation with monies for all of this. It's just great how it kind of morphed into all this. So I think that's great. So that will be the official title, Andrea.
Okay. Now to go on to the second grant, which is the Hartford Audubon Society. We have received a $400 grant, maybe $450, but I believe it's $400. We requested $600 or $650. And the woman was apparently just been swamped. So I will go to the town hall after this meeting to see if it's in our box, but and to learn subsequently too if there are other requirements. I had written her and followed up late March and have not heard anything back from her other than, yes, you got this money.
Hey, Andrew, when you check the box, can you just tell us if there's anything else? Just send me a quick note if there's anything else in there.
I could take everything for you because I have some
Oh,
things to deliver to
yeah,
you.
that'd be awesome. Thanks.
All right. So that's it for the present grants. But just projecting out to the Eklund property, if there's work that you want to do with regards to a migratory pathway and invasive removals, there's money out there. There's money. There's
Good
lots of it.
to know.
So
I think we need to pull that together when we get through the rest of this.
the environmental club had 2 work dates in March working on Champlain North, clearing some a huge swath of the Pentway and invasives behind and in front of the stone wall in the parking lot. And Public Works had come in and cleared the leaves from the condominium and put some gravel on the parking lot area on the left. So mitigating the, removing the ditch. So now there's parking. And when Evan and I went out there afterwards to put up bird houses, which is a subsequent subject, it had some water, standing water. So it was good timing and it was impossible to park on the right-hand side. So that was really an expedient job by Public Works. So thank you, Amanda.
And Jim Mildren's been out too and cut those trees along
Yes.
the pathway. And he says, tell Evan there's locusts on the other side of the wall.
So the Environmental Club has a April 24th cleanup roadside day, which doesn't really involve our property or any of us. But if we have something specific for them, we could propose something for May. June, I don't think there will be any activity because school is wrapping up and there are 6 seniors on the group. So I want to find a time either on this 24th to present them with the t-shirts for their graduating seniors, because may or may not present an opportunity to, because they're starting to commit to colleges and wrap up and finish up their senior programs. So April, maybe I will speak with Heather. That may be the best time to give them the t-shirt. But if you have ideas for a thing for May, the mulch.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to mention, I'm going to be meeting with the arborists from Bartlett Tree who fed the Barbizon oak last fall. I'll talk to him about a spring feeding, but he also talked about dropping wood chips to put for mulch around the tree. So I'll let him and Andrea perhaps coordinate a time for that. And that would be a great project for the environmental club.
Right.
Andrea,
Okay.
I would think that we would work on Champlain North because that's going to be our hike and our trail opening day, National Trails Day for the Artist Trail. So
Got it.
so I would just kind of focused on that when it's convenient for them, and that way they can come some afternoon. Peter, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Do you have the t-shirts?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just didn't know that. Thank you.
Yep. So you could have one in your size with a new color and new font for only $10.
Such a bargain. We went with soft gray. Oh, here they are. Anything else? Okay.
So with regard to the Champlain North, Evan was going to follow up with the Kitchings to figure out the ending or beginning of the entrance around the bunny hutches. Is there any discussion on that, Evan?
No, I haven't had a chance to follow up on that yet. So I'll
Okay.
do that today after the meeting.
Okay,
Super.
because I saw Chris and I said, we kind of need to define this and we need to, we may need some legal agreement, unfortunately. So let's see on that. Okay, next, we'll see.
And so as I alluded to, Evan and I had put up 3 birdhouses that were bluebird houses that were made by the Environmental Club. We actually had 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think we had 9 birdhouses altogether. There's actually a 10th one that doesn't exactly function well, but maybe I could offer that to you, Greg, from your birdhouse. But just keep in mind that it doesn't really latch well. But
Thank you. I already put a new one up.
huh?
I already put a new one up
Oh, okay.
with the copper protection around the hole.
Okay. Well, our bluebird houses was a real resourceful project because the environmental club and some faculty made the birdhouses. Paul Gleason, the girls' soccer coach, donated 10-foot galvanized poles that were 1 3/4 inch in diameter, wider than most baffles. Evan had them cut down by a friend, 8 feet, and then I fashioned them with homemade baffles and sawed and sanded, so it was all very hands-on stuff. And then we had to take that off to pound it into the ground, and then got them back up. But there's 1 on Champlain North, 2 on Rook Meadow. We have 2 in parts to be installed for the Roger Toy Peterson people and for Florence Griswold.
Good.
So I don't know how you want to coordinate them, but I have them in my house, so I'm happy to bring them, do them, show them, or whoever wants to facilitate that. Yes.
I quick question. When I shared the catastrophe of my birdhouse, I got a lot of suggestions on what to do, and some people said when you put up a pair of birdhouses that can accommodate the bluebirds, if the swallows take over one, tree swallows take over one. So I don't know if there's room for a second on Champlain North.
Well,
If you
here
have an extra.
is why don't we save it for Eckland?
Well, by the fall, I think we could get some more potentially.
Okay, well,
but we have one here.
Yeah. Now's the time they're looking for a nest, I believe.
Well,
So,
let's take this so we can move this meeting along. We have a lot more on our list. So
I think if I get Evan's pounder and he's game, we could possibly do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a place on Eckland that's not. I don't think anything on our property would be suitable for bluebirds.
Okay.
So I.
We'll let you all decide where you want to put them. You have our blessing.
Maybe we could start not immediately, but down the road, thinking about offering them to the neighboring properties.
Yeah.
They might have trees that it would be appropriate to, or locations where it would be appropriate.
Sure, that's a good
Goodwill
thought,
gesture.
Ann.
That'd be nice. Thanks.
Yeah.
Because they cost us money and it's public money, so we need to use it wisely. That's my only concern.
Well, actually, the only public money involved, oh, that's true, is the houses itself. That's right. The houses itself is what we had paid for. But I need to know how to proceed with the other 2 birdhouses. I'm happy to approach RTP and Audubon unless you want, and somebody else wants to. Just need some direction on that.
Andrea, why don't you let me talk to the Audubon people, and I'll see if I can get a hold of the powers that be at the Florence Griswold Museum. There are probably several board members that I can contact.
Okay, good.
Perfect. And I think that's it for me.
Okay, good. Any questions for anybody on Andrea's?
My only request is if I could coordinate with at least Evan this coming week to place the cameras, if that works for you.
I think I'll have to check my calendar, but I'm pretty sure I have some open time. depending
And,
on your, it'll
I'm
depend on
not
your work
working this
schedule.
coming week, so my only obligation are sport events, so.
Okay, okay.
I'll get back to you on Jim. Thank you for.
Maybe also, Andrea, if everybody's on site for the benches, that would be a time to do the cameras too.
Yeah, let me get back to Andrea on the roadway and then she can start the things. Let me move on to the Champlain North Artist Trail. I know Steve's not here. He's working on it. The only thought is Stephen passed on to me and Sarah. The only thing that was mentioned in the email was that he wouldn't be there and the benches that Edie Twiney had talked to him about are no longer available. They put them on their properties, Evan. So the question was, did we want Jim Mildren to do a larger bench to the right side of the Barbizon when we were working with signs? And I said to Jim, be nice if we could kind of get a curved one to define that area. So,
I think there's a trail to the right of the tree.
well, but you know, within reason. But if we had talked about, there's a sign now in front. We talked about redoing it, moving it over to the right so it doesn't, you know, block the tree. So to say, if you're coming around the corner and you want to look at the tree, you don't have a sign and a bench in front of you, move it a little bit over towards the right with a new sign.
Well,
And
I was thinking, Amanda, I mean, we can talk about it later, but having a bench somewhat removed from the oak so that you get a sort of panoramic view of the whole tree. You're not
I agree. I agree 100%.
sitting under it. You're not sitting under it with your neck crooked.
No, it needs to be stepped back. It doesn't, I don't want it in front in this, but right where the sign is seems to block the view too. If you were painting it, you got this sign there that you're, so we need to go look at that. But I was just wondering, do we want to ask Jim to do a bench? That was my thought.
Yeah, and I don't know how big it needs to be. I think if somebody wants to go look at the tree, they might actually like to do it alone.
Well, so in one of our travels, we'll go look and see.
Yeah, maybe Wednesday we can stop by and take a quick look.
Okay, now we have, and I don't know if we covered this already, Evan. Next, E is Inland Wetlands Commission, and we already kind of discussed the Eklund and the.
Yeah, I think we've already worked on that.
Okay, and then next, thank you, is Gary Gregory at long last, right, Gary? Conservation Commission.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
The Conservation Commission for this year's project has decided to help Sustainable Old Lyme on watershed education for the public.
Oh, good.
And along those lines, we had Kelsey Wentland she is the river steward for the Connecticut River Conservation. She was at our meeting Tuesday, and she's helping us get started with what we have to do. She'll do a couple seminars for us. So we just have to figure that out in the next 8-9 months, how to get that going. The most interesting thing out of that for me, we talked a little bit about water quality. We found out that the Deep does not have water quality data for Blackhall or the Lieutenant River. So we told her, there was about 3 of us said, hey, that sounds like something I want to do. So she's going to get us some information. It could be something that we'll end up doing, which would be we'd have to be trained to take this data. But the appalling thing is it's never been done because they don't have the manpower to do it.
Oh, interesting.
That's about it for conservation.
Did I see on your agenda something about Ames again?
Well, we talk about Ames every time, but nothing different.
So what does that mean? Nothing different?
Well, we're anxious to see the results of your aerials, and to see if we're doing any damage to any property, which from my opinion, I don't think we are. I never up there. And the other thing that we just want to make everybody aware of is if that culvert gets blocked up and we get a good rainfall, then the water is going to go over on Whippoorwill about 100 yards down the road. And when it does that, it'll probably take the road with it.
But that's a town, like we've talked about.
That's the town, yeah.
Right.
We're very much hopeful that you'll get the beaver deceivers going and set a level, and then we'll have a constant beaver pond there.
Well, Evan's going to talk. We mentioned earlier, Evan, you're going to talk to Tim and how we would like to coordinate with him getting the beaver, Mike Callahan, the beaver deceiver guy.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
Andrea has met with the woman. She came to our work party, remember? And she said there was grant money. You might want to reach out and touch base with her too, Andrea, to say, hey, we may need you soon, just to give her a heads up if you wouldn't mind. One
thing we want to remind you of is that the beaver deceiver for the culvert will probably be on state property. So that may, I don't know if that's us to do it or the state to do it or get permission or how that might go.
Okay. Well, that's going to be
first selectman to answer.
Yeah. I just want to mention, Gary, on your watershed study, your watershed project, I have printed up, copied a great article from a magazine called Northern Woodlands, which is really deals with the northern section of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine in New England, but and part of New York, the Adirondacks and so forth. But they have a great article on a small watershed, and so I thought I printed them up thinking maybe we were going to be meeting in person today, but I think what I'll do is take them into a town hall and put them in our mailbox, in the open space mailbox, so that, and there's one for each member of the commission here, the Open Space Commission. I'll just leave them there, and anybody who wants to read it, read the article. It's really well done.
Oh, good. Oh, good. That's good to know.
Thank you. Are there enough copies for the Conservation Commission?
I can, well, if you want to, I didn't make enough copies for the Conservation Commission, but if you want to copy yours, that's perfectly fine.
Or maybe you can scan it and send it out to everybody on your Conservation Commission. Just a thought. I don't know how many pages.
Yeah. All right. That's a great article, I'm sure. Thank you. And I want to tell you what a good job you did last night as an interviewer.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't see it, but I have the link to watch it, I guess, until the 17th or something on YouTube.
Oh, good. I wanted that link too. I'd like to watch it. It was a little crazy over here. Does that complete your report, Gary?
That does.
Any questions for Gary? Then, Evan, we're going to move on to number 5, new business. And this is Peter Cable, the project at the Lyman Allen Art Museum.
Yes, a project is a bit of a misnomer. It's really a 1-hour event in August at the Lyman Allen Museum that we might participate in. Let me give you some background. I got an email from Anna Flores, who was an artist, a sculptress from Rhode Island, whose sculptures have an environmental emphasis. And she is putting on a show that at the Lyman Allen Museum in New London that will run from June to October. And it's gonna, the show, as most of her shows, highlight how art and the environment interact in practice. And she's planning an August event. She's planning several events, but she's planning an August event, which will feature land conservation stewards and their conservation efforts. And she's asking for Old Lyme Open Space Commission participation in that event.
You know the
and- Beg your pardon?
Do you know the date?
I don't have an exact date for that. I don't know what the exact date is in August. No. It will be sort of one afternoon, and presumably, it might very well be a weekend afternoon because of there'll be outside participation. And so she emailed me asking for A, would we participate, and B, would we suggest themes, if you might. Now, let me give you some background. The reason I know Anna is because she had installed at the Barbizon Oak in 2019 a vision box. And I helped her do that. After Diana Johnson died, I think we sort of refocused our main emphasis away from just purchasing of land and just purchasing land for protection, and trying to get more involvement of the community in visiting our property. And the thought was that this vision box, which would be which was installed near the Barbizon Oak, which is a piece of artwork that allowed for people to make comments about the Barbizon Oak, would help do that. And I helped her put in the box and maintain it. And then later on, it was displayed at the Phoebe Griffin Noyes Library and was later auctioned, and part of the proceeds went to the library. When I had a phone conversation with Anna following her email, I mentioned the fact that the Schumann Artist Trail was coming into existence, and we were going to connect up with that, and all the cleanup that the environmental group was doing on Champlain North, and that was a very, very, seemed like a very natural subject for a discussion group at her event. And I think she was very, very interested in that. I said I would explore if there were any more ideas, things like, how we're addressing, say, climate change or something like that. I mean, might be another subject, but I think the idea of the connection with the Flow Grizz and the Artist Trail really seems like a good topic for this discussion. And I described to her, all the cleanup that's been going on, the participation of the environmental group at the high school. And so I think that seemed very, very good. The event, let me describe what the event is intended to be. It will be outdoors. As I said, she's doing a show, a 4-month show at the Lyman Allen. And she's going to try to schedule a couple of afternoon events throughout that period. But in August, and again, I don't have an exact date yet.
Yep.
The event would feature 2 hosts, one perhaps representing, if for example, we did the connection with the Artist Trail, one might be a representative from Open Space Commission, and the other might be Rebecca Beaulieu, the new director at the at Flo Grizz. And Anna would do a brief introduction about the connection between art and the environment. For example, emphasizing the Hudson River School and its manifestations. And then the participants, each of the two hosts, that is the Old Lyme Commission member and perhaps the Flo Grizz director, would each present a very, very short theme topic, 5 minutes. And they would be sitting in two of the sculptured chairs. This would be outdoors at the Lyman Allen Museum. And they would present a brief introduction, 5 minutes, and then there would be open discussion with people who would come to visit the Lyman Allen. And there would be an open discussion, back and forth, questions, answers, discussion between the hosts and the participants, the people who would come in. All, of course, done with appropriate social distancing.
Oh, good. Thank you.
And so, what I think Anna what I would like to ask now is, do we want to participate? Does it make sense? It's one member, and it would, have our name on it as one of the hosts. Number two, and then any ideas for other themes, and who might be the participant, I guess, would be my third question. I guess the first one requires a vote. Do we want to do it or not? And the second we can discuss after that. The question, so I put the question to you, do we want to participate in this 1 hour event? I think it provides us with some, provides us with some outside identification, but I don't think there's going to be a huge payoff. On the other hand, there isn't much investment. It's 1 hour of someone's time.
I'm familiar with this program through the Community Foundation of Eastern Connecticut.
Okay.
So it sounds pretty exciting, the whole her whole expedition, and she's also coordinating with artists and poets from Connecticut College, the Coast Guard, and some other place or two. And it's a very hands-on, inclusive theme. So I think it's a worthwhile program and project to support. Go ahead. Greg.
Good.
I would be in support of it as well, Peter. And I would go beyond like Champlain North and Barbizon. One of the things we talked about yesterday was the Rockfall grant talks about reaching out to different communities, and this would be an opportunity to do a presentation out of our town. And another thing that might be mentioned is the caves and Native American dwelling sites in Ames were also a subject of artist paintings, and that would be something that you could mention, and it would tie right into kind of the Beaver Project and other grants we've looked at.
But
Very
I think
good.
if someone was speaking for open space, we could,
I'm sorry.
if someone, was having the conversation, sitting in the chair, having the conversation, and we can say our focus is usually people associate us with the Flo Grizz, the Barbizon Oak, the American Impressionists. Are you aware that we have caves on our Ames open space that were also topics of paintings, and we just worked in, kind of let it flow out and then bring in all of our other open space. That's a good point, I think, is don't just stop it at the Barbizon Oak and the Flo Grizz. Bring it, script it so it covers other properties and other paintings and other things of interest to people. I think that's a very good point. So
Good.
I'm in support of it. I guess I'd like some more details before we maybe select somebody and availability on dates and things
Yes.
like that.
I think all of that's due to, all of that is,
With COVID.
up for discussion, later discussion. I think right now we're really just looking to see if we wanted to participate. And I said I would bring that up and ask for more topics. And I've got a couple here now, and
Great.
so I think, that'll be the discussion. I don't know if it's not, and I had thought that if the focus was on the Flow Grid, our connection with the Artist Trail, then the obvious other host would be the director of Flow Grizz. In this case, I don't know who the other host might be, but it would be someone
Let's bat it around a little.
representing the artist side rather than the environmental side.
Well,
presumably.
Flowgris would also tie into Ames, Peter, because I can send you an image of a painting that was also done by someone from the artist colony of the caves in Ames. So
So it could tie
Okay.
into, yeah.
Yeah, do that, please. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd say there's an interest, find some more details and come back in May. May's is still a good time.
Yeah.
Good
I
time
think the only thing she stressed was that she has to know, I think sometime, like around the 19th, 18th or 19th of this month, she has to have a firm answer about whether she's going to, whether she's going to go ahead with that August thing.
Is she
And
looking for us to make the connection with Flow Grizz and bring the second person in?
I don't, if the Flow Grizz is the, if that's the
Connection.
theme,
Mhm.
the connection with the Flow Grizz and the Artist Trail, then I think she would make that connection.
Okay,
We
good.
could.
She
I
has.
thought of Steve.
yeah.
I thought of Steve possibly being that, that interface.
Stephen.
But Steve isn't here, so
Yeah. Well,
teach him
Evan
to go to
has-
Nantucket.
yeah.
Evan has a lot of discussion between Audubon and Flow Grizz the next couple of days, and maybe he can bring that up to them. So why don't you say, yes, we're interested, and get back to her and we get more
Okay.
details for
So-
the meeting.
So we don't need a vote. We just
I mean, do you all want to vote?
gentle person's agreement, huh?
Yeah, generally, yeah.
I think that's the way to go for the time being. Yeah.
Okay.
But you can tell her that generally we are approving of the concept, and but we'll have to work out the details at a later
Receptive.
time.
Okay.
I just want to move this along. Thank you, Peter, for that presentation. I have one more thing, and Suzanne, I'm glad you're still on here. Hikers Happy Hour. We said we're interested. I saw Chris Kitchings on another matter, and she hasn't had any real contact with anybody. It was brought up that they would be, and we agreed the last meeting, it'd be April, May, Open Space agreed, April, May, September, and October. When I saw Chris Kitchings and the woman that's helping her with it, that was agreeable with them. They were thinking about the inn switching it to a Wednesday. I said, I really like Thursdays, but if you want us to do it on Wednesdays, we'll do it on Wednesdays. But they need to hear from us. They haven't had anything. And you all had offered Watch Rock. So I think we need to tighten up our commitment to this. I had said that we would do, when I saw Chris, we would do Champlain North Artist Trail, because that Wednesday was the Wednesday before the Saturday National Trails that we were going to have the big announcement. And Chris loved that, and she wanted our Hikers Happy Hour, both our signs up, and they were going to do a big PR thing for all of us. So I think we just need to tighten this up. So if you could tell us what's going on from your board. Thank you, Suzanne.
I'm not sure. They're definitely in favor of doing it, okay? But I don't remember any more specifics than that. I think Mark was on last time and talked over. listen to you and then report it back. And we definitely want to do it. Yes. So,
Is Mark your contact person?
you know, he's been the one that's come to these meetings. He couldn't make today. I said I would do that.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
I have to, you know, I just have to say, I've been so out of it. I can't even explain, you know, when you're,
Sorry you got your
It's-
sciatica.
I can't think straight. So I got, you know, pain brain and COVID brain.
Oh my gosh.
Can I make a quick comment to Amanda?
Sure.
I just wanted to mention, the other thing, Amanda brought up, Mark made a suggestion to us at the last meeting about doing a combined map for
It's an
your
email.
your layout in our McCullough, and we thought when it was presented to us that it was a go for you guys, so I kind of talked to Lisa Nicolai about the feasibility of that, but I'm sorry if we kind of jumped the gun on that.
That dual map, you mean?
Yeah, yeah, because Ann wrote back that you were still working on trails and maps. for
Right.
yours. Yeah.
Well, she's in the process of changing some trails on Lay again. So, but we have talked about that it would be nice to have those dual maps.
We, a lot of people that have expressed an interest, because they get lost after they come off of McCulloch and
Just one other really quick comment too. I know we're getting short on time. We did a joint publication with the Land Trust, Leah Hardy and I worked with, and I dropped 50 off at the library yesterday, now that it's open, and they're gonna pass them out.
And I have 25 to give to the Old Lime Inn. And I told them, because they were going to put them in the guest rooms, I said, here's the deal. You're getting 25 free. After that, you print them because they're a book form. They're 4 pages. You may only want to do the front, but I said, we gave them a nice picture frame displaying it and 25 copies. And after that, they're on their own. We did the library, we'll do the town hall. I'd kind of like to know, we'd like to know where you're going to do them so we don't overlap. They are expensive, and now the town is billing us 7 or 8 cents per copy. So we printed, I think, 200. So we're being billed for that because they are colored, so.
Yeah, I think the way it was left with Leah was that we were gonna do an initial run, and then subsequent to that, each group would basically reproduce what they needed for their own use.
So if you just let us know where you're gonna put them.
Okay.
I think maybe, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, were they gonna do Audubon?
Yeah, I think that was one of the 3 spots Leah mentioned. We did give Leah 100 of them, Suzanne.
So, but
Okay. I didn't know she'd gotten 100, so
yeah,
I'll talk to Leah.
just so we don't overlap and just, you know, they're not, you know, they're not like candy to be wadded up and thrown away, so.
No. Okay, she said Audubon, okay. I'll ask, you did the library and town hall, right?
Yeah.
And we gave 25 to the Old Lime Inn.
Okay,
And if you could just give us a contact or find out so we can firm up the hikers happy hour.
I'll find out, okay, I'll find out and get back to you, Amanda, about the happy hour and the maps.
Okay, anything you want to report to us from the land trust?
No, not really, I mean, Ann is a driving force to be reckoned with, she's all over the place. She's redoing trails right now because we've got some boundary issues, so that's.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, yeah. I saw that for Earth Day, you're opening, you made an announcement about a new trail.
Right. Yeah.
Griswold.
That's the
Thank you.
Griswold one, right? So,
Yeah.
like I said, I haven't been able to even look at any of them for 3 months.
Hey, Anna, Suzanne, I have a quick question for you. Do you have a sign by your driveway that says hidden entrance or something like that?
No,
Okay, somebody was saying that because we were thinking about for.
Yeah, there's a hidden driveway sign in Whippoorwill.
okay, you know, I didn't know if I had a right to speak on that, but I live on Whippoorwill and I would really oppose blasting. I come out of there all the time and make a left, and you can see a fair distance. If you make a left and keep moving, I think you're fine. If you make a left and stop, you're in trouble. But I think a mirror or a sign would do it, you know. I come out, I mean, occasionally traffic's fast on Whippoorwill, but sometimes traffic's very slow on Whippoorwill. So,
I hate to, I'm not sure about the mirror, but I think that's an engineering question. That's a cost. And so we'll defer when we get all that together.
okay,
Thank
can
you
you
all.
just clarify when you're doing the artist trail with Kitchings? Did you have a date for that?
There will be, and that's why we have to confirm with Chris Kitchings. If they're going to do it on Wednesdays, it will be the first Wednesday of May is yours, June is ours,
Okay,
September would be yours, and October would be ours. But they have to set the date.
okay.
They were thinking about going back to their pop-up dinners on Thursday, so that's why.
Okay.
But I'll confirm, between Ev and I, will confirm if it's a Wednesday or Thursday and email you, and then you can go on from there. Because we want to get the PR going. And Tim can mention it in the selectmen's letter. We can get some signs up, so that's why. That's what we did in the past.
You say we have April?
No, there is no April, May.
It's May, June, September, October. Okay.
Well, we did 4 the first time. Last year we didn't do any because of COVID, so we were keeping it. The board voted last month that we would do 4.
Okay.
2 of us, 2 for us, 2 for you, and then we have to coordinate with the Kitchings.
Okay.
And I think they started at 4:15 because the mantra in the town hall was always, we can't do it because we don't get out till 4. So we picked 4:15, 45-minute walk, happy hour at 5. And as I've told Chris, you promise us happy hour prices on everything. None of this, it only applies to this drink. I said, no, happy hour is happy hour. Okay, Peter, did you have a question? Oh, you had your hand up. Okay, if there's no other public comment, this ends our public meeting. So we can, so we can go into executive session.
Oh, brother. Okay.
Okay.
It will be brief, very brief. Thank you, Suzanne. We enjoy seeing everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Hi, everyone.
Okay.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
And Greg,
Yep.
I am
I will
pretty
stop
mindful.
recording.
I'm going to sign off.
Okay.
Greg, if you could send me the details for executive session when you have a
I will
chance.
do that. Yep.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great
Thanks,
weekend.
Sarah. I'll call
Thank
you
you,
after
Sarah.
the meeting.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
This will be real brief, I promise.